Great morning, humans. Great morning, world. This is your boy, Dr. J.C. Doornick, and welcome to another edition of the Make Sense with Dr. J.C. podcast. This is our live streaming format, and that means that anything can happen. I'm not exactly sure why I do this, but I think it's probably a selfish act in the sense that it keeps me sharp as I age. I don't know if you relate to this, but I struggled with massive anxiety, and I probably still do, but I've just turned it into something else. But anyway, my anxiety was always around public speaking. So I just forced myself a long time ago to practice voluntary discomfort and show up here all the time live. So anyway, welcome to the live edition of the Make Sense podcast. Everything gets cleaned up for YouTube thereafter, and the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. And I hope that you will support us and subscribe and like and rate and all of that stuff. And we have live people coming in. I see Lori. Great morning to you, Lori. Today's really exciting. We're gonna do one of our Monday summaries and synopses of one of the books that I've read. And for those of you that don't know, this is a new format that I'm doing where I just recognize that most everything that I talk about on my podcast or with other people, I've learned from somewhere else. And that has a lot to do with the fact that I read about a book a week, and that translates into almost 52 books in a year. And there's just so many gems and nuggets. There's no way that I could ever share all of them with you. So what I figured I'd do is I would just take books from the vault, ones that just like completely impacted my life, ones that I very much enjoy. There's way too many to share. And every Monday, allow you to come read a book with me on a Monday and allow yourself to consume some really, really cool, thoughtful, enriching information to help you start your day, whether you're listening to this on a podcast or watching this on a video. Learn something. By no means is this a replacement for reading these books. I'm a big, big fan of reading actual books, and a big shout out to one of the best friends in my life and affiliate of the Make Sense podcast, and that's the amazing Jim Quick. Jim Quick is somebody that taught me how to speed read and really improve my memory recall, and you get to benefit from it. So great morning, everybody. This is going to be what I call mastering the art of sanity, how to deal with stupidity and stay focused on your goals still. Now, this is a fun topic that we're about to lay down here. And this is this making sense of some of the book series. So this is making sense of The Psychology of Stupidity by author Jean Francois Marmion, French guy. And it's probably one of the coolest books that I've ever read, just because I just find stupidity such a fascinating topic. And this guy just did a great, great job with it. So I'm going to jump into it because there's a lot of information to cover. But the idea here is simple. You're going to get to encompass and digest and arm and equip yourself with this big book in the next 20 minutes. Once again, not really a replacement for reading the book. There's nothing like that. And I'm not going to be able to cover nearly as much as I'd like to in it, but you're going to get the gist of it. And it's going to prove to make a better morning, thus a better day, a better week, a better month, a better year, a better life. So let's get into it. So this is Making Sense of The Psychology of Stupidity by Jean Francois Marmion. So first, I want to give a public service announcement. This is an interesting topic and one that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I don't know how it affects you. If you're watching the live show, it probably won't make the final edit, but if you want to ask any questions or comment or yell and scream, you could do that in the comments and I can actually see that live. But my public service announcement is this. It made me say, why is it that some people feel uncomfortable around the word stupid? There's a science behind that. This is important before I spend time, summarizing the lessons from this book and frequently use that word, stupid or stupidity or something like that. You know, a lot of people might take offense to this. It carries a negative connotation for one thing, right? I think you'll agree. It may be connected to past trauma of being called stupid. That might be one thing. And you might all of a sudden say, yeah, that's it. It may be something that's like more socially connected. You know, it's this idea of saying like, it's not really proper to use terms like that. So maybe we'd prefer, which we're not going to do in this episode, we'd prefer to use words like uninformed or misguided or mistaken. Yet for the sake of this book, which is called The Psychology of Stupidity, I'm not going to replace the word, right? So if you can't allow yourself the space to just have a discussion, I understand. So we're going to use the word freely and give everyone listening permission right now, right? Everybody that's listening, we're going to give you permission to give yourselves the next 15, 20 minutes off from giving such a shit, giving a fuck enough about a word, right? That it would prompt you to not even want to hear this information, and release from this idea of making an opinion just for 15, 20 minutes. Deal? Okay. So what's this book about? Just quickly, The Psychology of Stupidity is a collection of essays. It's really interesting format. It's a collection of essays from leading psychologists and philosophers that delves into the nature of stupidity, why it exists. It's a very, very valuable thing to be able to acknowledge that there's this thing called stupidity and what it is, because it might even be you, right? Why it exists and how it manifests in our lives every day. So this book is a humorous yet enlightening exploration of how and why intelligent people make dumb decisions. Interesting to note that intelligent people can be stupid. Did you know that? Even wise people can be stupid. And how society fosters collective foolishness in general. I think you've seen some of that. And how to deal with this idea of stupidity without becoming consumed by it. Because there's two ways you can be consumed by stupidity. You can be consumed and like affected by it. And like, I know that when I meet somebody that's doing stupid stuff, I almost feel stupid, right? But I could also get pissed off at stupidity and have it manifest for the rest of my day. So that's the basic synopsis. I just want to officially welcome everybody to the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. And for those of you that don't know, this podcast covers topics that expand human consciousness and performance. On the Make Sense podcast, we acknowledge that it is who you are that determines how well what you do works. And that perception is subjective. It's an acquired taste. So when we know, what we know is that when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at begin to change. So I want to welcome you to the uprising of the sleepwalking masses, and welcome to the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. And for those of you that didn't know, the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast is not free. Well, it's not free for me. It's free for you. So I want to just give props and thanks to our sponsor, the Make Sense Academy. The Make Sense Academy is a private community where people can finally put a stop to simply going through life and begin the process right away of growing through life. The Make Sense Academy is a psychological safe haven and incubator for your personal growth and professional growth. So there just isn't anything out there like that, right? There's just nothing out there at this price, all encompassing, that gives you everything that you're looking for at the same time. You have to kind of get it like a la carte everywhere. So if you're looking for self-development, mentorship, business coaching, systems, tools, and even the authentic solution-focused community that we have that you can collaborate with and network with and grow, come check out the Make Sense Academy. It's risk-free to take a look-see. If you want, just comment "Makes sense." I'll give you an invite to come check it out, or look at the link after this in the show notes. So here's my question. Great morning to you, Kathy. Why is it important to know how to navigate stupidity? I mean, think about that. Why is it even important? Because a lot of us just avoid it. Really simply put, if you don't have the ability to know that you're dealing with a stupid person, it can be a massive time suck in your life. Think about what that means. If stupidity is happening and you don't know how to recognize it and discard it, filter it out, and label it as something that is not useful, it can be a major time suck. And it can also create a distraction and can possibly cause you harm as well. And I know this because very often I meet people and they're stuck. They're still dealing with the past, right? Great morning to you, Chris Cushing. Not to mention that it may in fact be you if you don't know how to recognize this. That's stupid. Have you ever been stupid? I sure have. I might even be stupid today. I might even be stupid in this episode, but your degree and ability to recognize it is very important. So your level of stupidity is undetectable because you're stupid. You know, that's another thing about stupidity is when we're acting stupid, I don't think we say, I'm going to go do something stupid, right? And you're going to learn a little bit more about the science behind that. By the way, here's my own personal observation before I get into the highlights and the takeaways and the main lessons of this book, The Psychology of Stupidity by Jean Francois Marmion. My observation is that intelligence does not exempt one from being stupid. That's a misnomer, this idea that intelligent people are not stupid. I've met some incredibly intelligent and eloquent people that in some ways do very extraordinarily sometimes stupid things. Have you ever met an intelligent person, a successful, highly successful, high-level thinker that does stupid things? I personally notice that stupid people lack the ability to know how their stupid actions are affecting others. So I also want to give you the opportunity to not look at stupid as a bad word. It's like, forgive them for they know not what they do, right? It's kind of like an unconscious mistake when we do something stupid. So I don't get angry anymore at stupid people because I really don't think that they know how their potentially stupid, the observation of this stupid activity is affecting others. Their stupidity radar of themselves and others is not good. It's ineffective. So here are the key lessons that I took from this book. So number one, stupidity is not the opposite of intelligence. There it is again. Being intelligent doesn't make one immune to stupidity. Intelligent people are often skilled at rationalizing poor decisions rather than avoiding them. The takeaway that I got from that lesson is this: stupidity often arises not from ignorance, but from the cognitive biases. If you don't know what a cognitive bias is that's the person that has made up their mind about something and put an exclamation point behind it and created a bias towards anything else, anything that's potentially better, anything else other than something that supports what they have made their mind up about. And also emotional reasoning and, of course, overconfidence. That would be me. As well as people that have made their minds up, as I said before, and become closed to new information and new points of view. So the number two takeaway from this amazing book, the social nature. There's a social nature to stupidity. Stupidity thrives in groups, doesn't it? I mean, that's where we typically see it. Like, we'll typically refer to a group as stupid, where herd mentality, peer pressure, and ideological conformity amplify bad ideas. See, this was what's interesting about stupidity is if you're in a group, if you're in a stupid group, and remember, it's not necessarily a bad word. They don't know, right? It's just part of the human, phenomenon. But if you're in a group and everybody, especially influential leaders in that group, are doing stupid things, it actually amplifies the validity of the bad idea. That's when people go, yeah, or amen to that. That's right. You tell them, right? And they look around and they see all their people and it just makes sense. So the author in this book shares this concept called group think. That's a fun thing to write down, group think, which refers to the persuasive herd-like behavior where people follow the group, regardless of how unfounded and stupid their ideas are. Don't we see that everywhere these days? So my big takeaway from that is this: recognize group think. Don't blame it, don't label it, don't judge it, but recognize it, and also try to recognize that you're involved in herd mentality and groupthink. It's everywhere. It just happened January 1st. Great morning to you, Susan Cox. Recognize groupthink and allow yourself to maintain a critical, independent perspective in collective decision making. Here's what that means. If you find yourself in a group and you notice this groupthink, even you notice your role in it, you might even be the influencer in it. The skill set would be acknowledging this and then allowing yourself to maintain a critical and independent perspective, like your own perspective, not just the group, and maybe even the perspective of people that are not in your group, and try to make sense of those things. That's the premise of my work, is making sense of things and helping you handle adversity. So there's a great article, and I'll put the references in there, about the 5 laws of stupidity by Corinne Pertl. This is a really, really cool article. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through these, but the 5 universal laws of stupidity in that article, and this is not part of the book. This is just some extra stuff that I fell upon. Here are the 5 laws of human stupidity. Everyone underestimates the number of stupid people around them. Okay. 2, a person is stupid if they cause harm to another person or group while deriving no benefit for themselves. Here's an interesting thing to acknowledge. There's this reference called bandits. Bandits are people that cause harm to other people, but for personal gain. You can kind of like see those people and predict those people, but stupid people, very hard to predict that behavior because it makes no sense at all. A stupid person causes harm to others without having any personal gain in it at all. Right? And they're also unaware of how what they say affects others. So the 3rd law of human stupidity, stupid people are more dangerous than we think. Their unpredictability and lack of knowledge make them more harmful than overly malicious people. Think about it. You know, it's scary when somebody doesn't even know they're doing something. You know, I mean, we see this happening a lot. You know, we see a lot of stupid human behavior. So that's the number 3rd one. Stupid people are way more dangerous than we think. So it's important to learn how to acknowledge them. And maybe if you're the stupid person, you know, you could be dangerous as well. Number 4, non-stupid people. I know you'd like to consider yourself one, but we all do stupid things. Non-stupid people often underestimate the harm stupid people can do, right? That's the idea, is non-stupid people can often, you know, figure this out and just be like, here's the thing, takes one to know one, right? So if you're not a stupid person, you might not be able to recognize somebody doing stupid stuff. You might just think that they're an idiot or something like that and put them down. But remember, they don't even know that they're doing it. And then the other one was stupidity is a constant. Stupidity is a constant. What that means is it transcends education. We talked about intelligence, profession, and socioeconomic status. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Nobody's excluded from it, especially if you haven't identified yet that you're running this program that you acquired from your mother, father, teacher, preacher. So it's a universal human characteristic. Okay. And I shared before that stupid people are even more dangerous than this idea of what we call the bandit. That's actually the 5th law. They're more dangerous than even criminals, and that's because they're unpredictable. So anyway, those are the 5 laws. You can go read that article. Very, very cool. There's also a video on it on YouTube. So back to my takeaways on this book. Number 3, the role of ego and overconfidence. We talked a little bit about overconfidence being something that prompts stupidity. Overestimating one's intelligence or abilities can lead to arrogance and rash decisions. Am I right? You know, when you're overly confident and you don't really like check all the facts and you just feel like you could just run through flames, we often make arrogant and rash decisions and don't take note of how they affect other people. So all of a sudden you're the stupid person as a result of being confident. And Marmion refers to this as a stupidity trap. And that's an interesting thing to just acknowledge if you're in a stupidity trap, and it's just because you're overly confident and you haven't thought things through. We teach a lot in the Make Sense Academy. I teach this interface response system, and it's just a way of slowing the process down and allowing yourself space to think and make more logical and rational decisions. It's not always in opposition to adversity that is coming from the outside in. Sometimes that adversity is coming from the inside out with your thoughts and feelings, right? So you have to kind of run that interface response system on even what you think, right? And it might be your ego or your overconfidence that's making bad decisions. So my takeaway from that is that cultivate humility. This would be the action step. Cultivate humility and self-awareness. Big one, self-awareness, mindfulness, and avoid falling prey to overconfidence. It's okay if you feel overconfident. It feels great. A high confidence is great. But when it turns into like blind cockiness, right, and you think you're indestructible, ask anyone. That's when the wall is coming. Note the difference between confidence and overconfidence. That's the self-awareness. Number 4, stupidity is a defense mechanism sometimes. People often act stupid to avoid confronting uncomfortable truths, right? How do you act when you're nervous? How do you act when somebody figured you out, right, and exposed you, right? That imposter syndrome. How do you act? And that is where, from the outside in, there's some sort of an identification of your ego that came out or whatever. So people that act stupidly to avoid confronting comfortable truths, they also look to preserve their ego or maintain their worldview. Think about that. Do you know anyone that maintains their worldview without considering anything else? That's that cognitive bias. You're looking at them thinking they're stupid, but they might be doing that as a defense mechanism, right? They just don't want to admit that they're wrong. Have you ever been wrong about something or identified that you're wrong, or even that you could be wrong, but you protected your position anyway? So the takeaway there is understanding this defensive nature of stupidity can help you approach others with empathy and patience. I love empathy. Empathy is just understanding or being in support of the autonomy of that person, the autonomous situation of that person. You don't have to accept it, but just recognize it. Refer to phase 1 of the interface response system, which is called perceive of the interface response system. And remember, that's a 4-step process. But the first phase of it is where we learn to become aware of our own programmed thoughts, feelings, and actions. Before you can put a stop to your knee-jerk reaction, you have to be aware that you have a knee-jerk reaction, right? So that's what phase 1 is, and acknowledge why you do and the way the brain works and the unconscious part of the brain and then the conscious part of the brain. So number 5, the emotional roots of irrationality. Irrationality is a very close word to stupidity, right? Have you ever been irrational? Somebody thought you were stupid. So emotional thinking can override rational thought, leading to illogical or destructive behaviors. Takeaway there, learn to identify when emotions are clouding your judgment. It's okay to have emotions, but learn how to identify when they're clouding your judgment and practice emotional regulation. I love that idea. Ask questions like, that's a question. Create space. Is my perception being persuaded by my current emotional state? If you can learn how to do that and practice emotional regulation, massive change in your life. Is my current reality and my emotional state persuading the way that I'm looking at this and reacting to this right now? Oh boy, I know it's tough to do, but that's valuable. So how to handle stupidity in others. This is a big one. This is a very, very big part of what I do in my Instagram account, is how to handle adversity. Engaging with stupidity can drain your energy and derail your focus. Instead, arguing, right? Instead of arguing, maintain your composure and choose your battles wisely in support of your goals, dreams, and desires. Why would we be adverse and confront somebody and defend something that has nothing to do, that in no way, shape, or form supports where we're trying to get that day. So the takeaway there is avoid wasting time trying to change deeply entrenched beliefs that others have or behaviors. Focus on controlling your response instead. One of the biggest power moves you can ever have today. The book that I'm reading this particular week at the time of this live recording is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Just a fun book. She just says, let them. That's emotional regulation. That's a good one. So stupidity is universal. Stupidity is part of the human condition and not confined to any one group or profession or level of education. So don't think that you're excluded from stupidity. If you're somebody that really gets bothered by stupidity, which was me my whole life, that's typically somebody that doesn't know their own stupidity and doesn't understand that it's universal. So the takeaway there is accepting that stupidity is inevitable, and accepting that stupidity is inevitable helps you deal with it without frustration and judgment. That's what it did for me. Remember, stupid is just a word, and if it has a negative ring to it in your ear, that's not the word, right? It's not the word that has the negative ring in your ear. It's how you've been programmed and how it's been presented to you by others, or by your life experience. So if you hear the word stupid, and very often people go, I don't like that word. Of course you don't, right? But it has not to do with the word, because the word could be actually used in a funny way without hurting others. But it has to do with how it's shown up in your life experience and how it was presented to you. So free yourself from that subjective nature and have fun making sense of stuff with it. So a couple of other primary takeaways. Self-awareness is key. Of course it is, right? That's step one of the interface response system. Always identify and recognize your own biases and emotional blind spots to minimize the risk of acting foolishly. If you're freaking out over stupidity, you might be perceived by the stupid person as stupid because you're overdoing it. Geez, what's the big deal, right? Stay focused. Avoid being distracted or derailed by the stupidity of others. Instead, channel your energy towards productive pursuits. That's what I choose to do today. How about you? Embrace humor. Now you got to define what humor means. I don't think that's funny, but embrace humor. Dealing with stupidity often requires a sense of humor to keep your sanity intact. You know what I like to do? When somebody does something really, really stupid, one of my favorite responses is I just point to them and I go, you're so funny. Try that sometime. It's a lot of fun. Empathy over judgment. Understand the root causes of someone's irrational behavior. Okay, that's a good thing to do as well, is look and see, I wonder why they're doing this. Maybe they're nervous. Maybe they don't know what they're doing. As soon as you take offense and think that it's happening to you, everything goes awry. So understand the root causes of somebody's irrational behavior. Instead of reacting with anger or disdain, react with empathy. Critical thinking, the last one. Practice questioning assumptions. If you can catch you making assumptions, which, by the way, are typically prompted by the consumption of what you are letting in all day, what we consume with regularity ends up being what we assume with regularity. But practice questioning your own assumptions, whether your own or others. Sometimes you can acknowledge your own assumptions, or you can acknowledge that somebody else is making assumptions, and that'll help you make better decisions that day. So how to apply these lessons in everyday life? Set boundaries. There's one, obviously. Practice mindful responses. Think about it first. Create a response that supports where you desire to go that day. Maybe it's just to have a good day, one that doesn't hurt others, one that recognizes that you don't even need to give a response sometimes. Here's another one. Focus on what you control versus don't. Instead of trying to fix stupidity, focus on maintaining your own agency, your own clarity and emotional balance. And then the last one, cultivate curiosity. I love to walk around the world with open curiosity. I like to be open and curious. I like to use the words maybe or say, to what I think and to what I see and what I perceive. Approach stupidity as an opportunity to train, an opportunity to learn about human behavior rather than a source of frustration. So Jean Francois Marmion's Psychology of Stupidity offers us a witty and insightful exploration into the human tendency towards irrationality. It's not just about understanding stupidity, but learning how to navigate it without sacrificing your energy and your focus. By practicing self-awareness, empathy, and critical thinking, you can avoid falling into the same traps and maintain your path forward with your own personal development, self-development, and personal growth. Whether you're trying to manage your own cognitive blind spots or deal with others' irrational behavior, this book, I definitely recommend this book. It's a great book. It's fun. You learn a lot. This book provides you the tools to stay calm, focused, and effective in a world full of distractions. That's very interface response system, very Makes Sense Academy, this book. So perhaps we'll have this guy come speak to us one day. So remember, stupidity may be universal, but how you respond to it is entirely up to you. So love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. Thanks for coming and reading a book with Dr. JC on the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. Remember, I put out this really cool Substack email newsletter. These are all things you can ask for. I always put them in the show notes and descriptions and stuff, especially after the edit. Come check out my Substack. You'll get all the podcast episodes delivered to you by email. You'll get all of the transcripts, all of my blogs, my vlogs, as well as everything that's attached to it, references and the book links and everything like that. Follow the Make Sense with Dr. JC Doornick podcast. And more importantly than anything, if you learned something today, give it away. That's actually how it's going to stay. Have a great day, everybody. Love and appreciate you. I'll see you next time.